crypto market is seeing massive breakdowns all across the board right now. With Ethereum just having a breakdown, Solana breaking through its short-term support, and the BlackRock Bitcoin Spot ETF just continuing to trade down lower and lower and lower. And as I've said before, I personally think that the actual Bitcoin price kind of follows along with those of BlackRock, Grayscale, etc. Right now, we're seeing massive outflows from Grayscale and some inflows into the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF, but not nearly enough to cover the massive minus from Grayscale. Anyway, on that similar field, over on the 4-hour chart, we can see that Bitcoin is just making a pretty massive wick down, 4% or actually 3% down over the past 4 hours. And again, it doesn't necessarily have to last. The last time we had such a wick, there was a quick move back upwards, and that was actually just 2 days ago. So we're not in crazy price territory or anything. Matter of fact, looking back, we have bounced from this region extremely often in the recent past. Just taking a look here. As you can see, it's actually been a little while since we closed below this level. We just had some touches, and depending on where we end up over the next 4 hours, this could be the worst. But again, I want you guys to understand that right now, as a baseline, Bitcoin has just broken towards the downside, with the most interesting low that we are looking at right now being this exact level, around $41.4 thousand that we hit slightly earlier, with again potentially a little bounce off of here, but this is very, very short term, guys. But I will add upon the fact that these are some of the most beautiful moves when you're in a very clear structure. In this case here, after a massive breakdown, we had a consolidation phase with lower highs, but at the same time, higher lows, which is really peculiar. You are setting yourself up for a major move. And that's exactly what right now we saw, a roughly 3%, 2.5% move in just a few hours, which to some is nothing, but I consider to be a massive move. Then again, I think that this has just set us up for directing where the next massive move towards is going to be for Bitcoin, which interestingly enough is quite vice versa on Ethereum, with initially some massive move upwards, a consolidation phase, but now breaking back down, which I personally believe is mostly because Bitcoin is having a massive breakdown right now, because theoretically speaking, with all this ETF hype around Ethereum and the deadline being 4 months and Bitcoin going up and up and up in anticipation of that deadline, we did expect more positive sentiment towards Ethereum. Then again, this is all short term, right? That we're all talking right now. Even if we see a very juicy correction with our first target for Bitcoin being about 40.5, but I say the massive target filling the CME gap at 39.6K. And again, we have to take a step back and say, we call it the $47,000 top. I told you guys I'm exiting some of my positions and keeping some open purely for the longer term game. Because I personally think short term, 47 looked like a very hard sell. Long term, and we often describe it with these charts. Right now, we're actually, if we follow the 2021 cycle, due for a slight correction. But the thing is, that was a black swan event because of the coronavirus. If we look at the cycle before that, the 2017 cycle, it was actually mostly only up from here. And so from that perspective, for the longer term, keeping positions open ain't that bad, especially because the funding rates don't go out of control when you get yourself pullbacks like this. But again, right now, the level to watch is where we are bouncing off right now. Let's do a little bit more of a breakdown though. Right now, as it stands, and the S&P continues to trade higher, and we are expecting the S&P to break this all-time high, which is just slightly above very, very soon. We remain bullish on Bitcoin. And so what we're looking for is dip buying opportunities. Again, everything, but in my opinion, everything below $40.5 thousand is just amazing opportunities, where again, my strategy is as follows. Right now, I already had myself some very slight openings of positions. We again described a little ping pong strategy of buying the $42,000 level and selling it at 43. But right now, as we've broken, we're looking for the next major area to buy, which is roughly $40.5 thousand. My official real massive buying will most likely happen at roughly 39.6K. And again, if you're not sure exactly why we often talk about this CME gap, as you can see over on the CME, which again is futures, it doesn't trade on the weekends, there's a little gap here between 39.1 and roughly, let's say 40.5, again, one of our buying levels area. This entire area in here is going to be very, very interesting to pick Bitcoin up at. as a lot of traders believe that this CME gap needs to be filled, and so the price will see roughly this level before trading back up. Because again, on these futures markets, as it closes on Friday and opens Sunday evening, the price skipped over all this, as again, it just started back off where the spot price was at over on Monday or Sunday evening, depending on where you are in the world. So again, to be extremely accurate for you, if there are certain levels you'd want to watch, the one you have to watch for right now is $39,630. That is by far the most important level for Bitcoin, and that a lot of traders are hunting right now because CME gaps very often get filled. I just scrolled back a little bit. I think there's a lot of good examples to give, but please bear with me. CME gap slightly right here, and you can see the price got back to that area pretty quickly after. Messed up the recording a little bit. What I was saying though is that these CME gaps very often get filled. And again, as you scroll through the Bitcoin chart, you can see that indeed the price very often comes right back to the zone that was skipped. And again, I'm just hovering over the CME gap and then afterwards the filling. And right now, with our latest CME gap, people are expecting again for the price to fill it over the next couple of days, weeks, whatever. Because theoretically speaking, sometimes people say that this will at some point still get filled. Then again, I'll tell you one thing right now. Some of them never do, right? Even this one from all the way back in 2021 eventually got filled, or even right here, depending on which one you accept. But at some point, the last time it hits a low price is like the last time, if you get my feelings. There might have been a CME gap for Bitcoin at, $2,000. There's a very good chance that that one is never going to get filled. But honestly, for me, just looking around, one of the lowest ones I could find is right here at 6,000. And that one did actually get filled, as you can see right here. And so potentially this is a lot more accurate than many people realize. Maybe there's a lot more power in this than a lot of people are giving it credit for. And so the moment that we touch that level, I've got my bags ready to load up. Again, of course, anticipating potentially some further breakdowns because we already said basically the most or worst case scenario for Bitcoin's correction, in our opinion, is roughly a 33% correction, because that's, I'd say, the number that it mostly gets to in bull markets in terms of a crash. If you analyze Bitcoin's previous runs, that's like mostly the worst case. And that would be roughly 33,000 for Bitcoin, roughly at this area right there. But CME gap wise, which is the first major hurdle to look out for, 39.6, watch about that level. Anyway, if you're looking for a good crypto exchange to trade on, I've left the link down below to Bybit. Right now, you claim yourself a $500 free position. Again, this is not available in every single country though. A lot of traders from different countries use 𝗁𝘂, I noticed. I'm talking about American YouTubers and just a lot of the content creators who trade, I've noticed, use 𝗁𝘂 as well. Basically works the same as all the other crypto exchanges. They're all pretty much the same. I'll also leave a link to that one down below. But again, Bybit is my personal favorite crypto exchange to trade on. And it's interesting that the S&P is just zooting. Look at how crazy it's going. But Ethereum is having such a massive breakdown. And I would say I would pick up more Ethereum, but in terms of a target, I think if we had a breakdown, it's going to be a pretty massive one. It's roughly $2,250. And interestingly enough, it also seems more and more so like our Bitcoin spot ETF, buy the rumor, sell the news type of scenario is playing out. At least as of this point, it is playing out as expected, with again the CME gap being filled at roughly 39.6 and our worst case scenario being at 33. We might talk about some hedge strategies between this $37,000 and $33,000 mark next time, but for right now, this is the level to watch. This is what we'll be picking up. This is where I'll open my massive long position for Bitcoin yet again. And I don't want to waste you guys' time, so hopefully I'll see you guys again tomorrow or the day after, depending on what happens with the price and depending on when we see an update. And make sure you press that like button if you're enjoying these daily crypto videos.